He cleaned the church for 15 years. No one knew he once owned it. How? What happened? Find out in this powerful story. Don't forget to like, share, and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. Every Sunday morning, before the sun rose high enough to kiss the cross above the steeple, Isaiah Carter was already at the little white church on Maple and 3rd. His old truck, rusty, dented, faithful, sat in the gravel lot long before anyone else arrived. Inside the church, Isaiah swept the aisles, straightened the hymnals, and wiped fingerprints off the stained glass windows. He checked the fans, again. They always rattled in the summer heat. He'd quiet them just enough to make the sanctuary feel like peace. He did it all without being asked. He always had. To most, he was just Brother Isaiah. The old man with the slow walk, the soft eyes, and the hands that looked like they'd once held both hammers and heavy grief. He never stood in front of the pulpit. He never passed the offering plate. He didn't serve on the church board. But every child knew him. Every usher nodded to him with respect. And every week, someone would say, "That man's got servant's hands." No one knew just how true that was. He moved quietly, always in the background. You'd see him tightening a pew bolt with an old wrench wrapped in cloth, or changing a flickering light bulb just before service began. Some days he'd arrive with bags of ice for the kitchen, or slip a 20 into the food pantry basket when no one was watching. Every child in the youth choir knew where to find the peppermints. Isaiah always had them, wrapped in shiny red and white. He'd press them into little hands with a wink and a gentle, "Do your best today, baby." But no one really asked about him. Not deeply. Some said he was a retired janitor. Others thought he might have once been a mechanic. There were whispers, soft and passing. "I heard he used to be rich. He owned land once, didn't he?" Nah. That's just folks talking. Probably never had more than a pension. No one asked Isaiah himself. And he never corrected them. He just smiled, nodded, and kept sweeping. 15 years passed like that. 15 years of faithful labor. 15 years of baptisms, weddings, homegoings, potlucks, and youth revivals. 15 years of working behind the scenes for a congregation that never knew they owed him more than thanks. No one saw him. Not really. Except maybe God. And that was enough for Isaiah. What the church didn't see was that every sweep of his broom, every tightened bolt, every carefully folded bulletin, was his way of healing. Years ago, long before anyone called him Brother Isaiah, he had another name. Isaiah Carter, Sr. Real estate developer. Husband. Visionary. The man who once stood on this very ground and dreamed of building a church where families could grow and souls could rest. He bought the land. Paid the first builders. Donated anonymously through a holding company. He had it all, until the night cancer took Amara, his wife of 26 years. The world faded after that. The money didn't matter. Neither did the buildings. He walked away from it all. But after years of drifting, he found his way back, to this church. The one they had dedicated together. The one they had prayed would bless generations. He didn't return with a title or a plan. He came back with a broom, and a silent prayer to keep serving where he started. Sometimes, he would sit in the back pew after service ended. The choir would be long gone. The lights dimmed. He'd sit there in silence, eyes closed, one hand over his chest. If you listen closely, you'd hear him whisper, "Still here, Amara. Still holding on." He never missed a Sunday. Through knee pain, rainstorms, and even the weeks when his wallet was light, Isaiah Carter showed up, early, quiet, and ready. People assumed he was there because he had nowhere else to be. The truth? He was there because he never left. It was a warm Sunday morning in early spring. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows of New Light Baptist Church, painting soft blues and golds across the choir robes. The sanctuary buzzed with joy, voices lifted in praise, babies babbling in laps, and fans waving gently in the hands of elder mothers on the front pew. Brother Isaiah was already in his usual place, the back corner, mop drying quietly against the wall, hands folded, face serene. He had already swept the sanctuary twice, made sure the microphones were on, and handed out his usual peppermints to the choir kids. No one questioned how he always got there before everyone else. It was just what he did. But that morning, something was different. After the announcements and prayer requests, Pastor Givens stepped up to the pulpit with a look no one had seen before. His eyes were red-rimmed, his hands shaking slightly as he held a crisp, white envelope. "Church family," he began, voice low, "we received something this week. Something that I honestly never expected." A hush fell over the room. Even the children grew still. This envelope arrived with no return name. No call. Just a letter and a cashier's check. He held up the paper, his voice cracking. "The donation inside this envelope is enough to pay off the church mortgage in full, fund the expansion of our food ministry, and completely rebuild the youth center." Gasps swept through the sanctuary. Someone clapped. A woman shouted, "Hallelujah." The organist played a soft chord, unsure whether to rejoice or hold back. The room was thunderstruck. The letter didn't include a name. Just a line at the bottom. "For the house that healed me." People turned to each other in awe. Who would give that kind of money? An angel, that's what. Maybe it was one of the celebrity speakers from last year. The pastor smiled tearfully. "I don't know who it was, church. But God knows." And then, a voice. Small, honest, innocent. From the second row of the youth section, little Darius White, barely 7, raised his hand. "Pastor," he said, shyly. Everyone turned. "I saw Brother Isaiah put something in the mailbox on Tuesday night." The room went dead silent. All eyes turned to the back corner. There stood Isaiah, caught mid-step as he reached for a bulletin. His hand froze. So did his breath. Murmurs rose like waves. Did he really? Brother Isaiah? No way. The pastor's lips parted, stunned. "Brother Isaiah, is that true?" Isaiah hesitated. His eyes scanned the crowd. Familiar faces. People he had served, prayed for, swept around. People who never asked where he came from, and never really saw him. He looked down at his hands. Calloused. Wrinkled. Worn. Then he nodded once. Softly. "It's true." A hush fell again. He stepped forward slowly, his limp more noticeable today. But his voice? Steady. Deep. "I built this church. 40 years ago. Bought the land. Paid for the foundation, the first bricks, the windows, even the stained glass." He paused. Not a soul moved. "Back then, I was Isaiah Carter, sister real estate developer. Married. Blessed." A few mouths fell open. "When my wife Amara passed, everything left me. My business, my drive. I walked away from it all. But I came back here 15 years ago. Quietly." He looked around. His voice softened. "Not to be known. Not to be thanked. I came back with a broom, because I needed to be close to what we built together. This church saved me long before I gave anything back." Tears streamed down faces in every pew. Some stood. Others dropped to their knees. "I didn't want credit. I just wanted to finish what I started." Pastor Givens walked down the aisle, arms open. He hugged Isaiah in the center of the aisle as the congregation rose to their feet, not out of pity, but in reverence. They wept. They clapped. They shouted. Because they finally saw him, not just as Brother Isaiah, the janitor, but as the founder. The cornerstone. The sanctuary of New Light Baptist Church had never felt heavier with reverence. Not during baptisms. Not during Easter. Not even during funerals. Because this was something deeper. This was truth, finally seen. And Isaiah Carter, who had stood quietly in the shadows for 15 years, was now at the center of it all. Not for fame. Not for applause. But for faith fulfilled. After the service, no one rushed out like they usually did. There were no announcements about bake sales. No race to beat the lunch rush. People stayed. They gathered around Isaiah. Some cried openly. Others hugged him tightly. Deacons and children, mothers and teens, they all had the same look in their eyes. How didn't we know? But Isaiah didn't look for blame. He smiled gently, his eyes crinkled but shining. He was tired, but peaceful. "I didn't come here to be remembered," he told them. "I came to remember who I was, and who God still called me to be." A week later, the church held a special evening service. A celebration of servanthood. This time, Isaiah didn't sit in the back corner. He was escorted to the front row. Given a new suit, navy blue, crisp, tailored by a member of the congregation. His name stitched quietly inside the cuff. The youth choir, whom he'd fed peppermints and loved for years, sang their hearts out. The final song? A version of He's Got the Whole World in His Hands, with a special verse written just for him. He swept our floors, he fixed the lights. He watched us grow and tucked us right. Brother Isaiah, strong and kind. A builder's heart, a servant's mind. The entire church stood, clapping, crying, honoring him the way he'd always deserved. Then came the surprise. Pastor Givens took the MIC again. In honor of Brother Isaiah's legacy and his faithfulness even in silence, the church board has unanimously voted to rename our youth center. A pause. It will now be called the Isaiah and Amara Carter Center for Faith and Community. Isaiah covered his face with his hands. His shoulders shook. For a moment, he looked like the broken man who'd walked back into that church 15 years ago. But when he lowered his hands, he smiled. And this time, it was the smile of a man seen. As the congregation filed out that night, someone whispered, "The whole time, he was the foundation. And we didn't even know we were standing on him." In a world obsessed with spotlight and stage, Isaiah Carter taught them something deeper. That true greatness doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just shows up, early, faithful, quiet, with a broom in one hand and purpose in the other. The greatest builders don't always wear suits. Sometimes, they wear humility. True legacy isn't built in titles or applause, it's built in quiet faithfulness. Sometimes, the strongest foundations are laid by those no one notices. Until the day we realize everything stood because they never stopped showing up. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that inspire, challenge, and stay with you.